Forget your former managers, ignore the ex-pros. As football fans, we all know the real experts drink in pubs. It's funny, it's argumentative, and often it's just plain wrong. Welcome to the Foss Arms Public House and welcome to the Leicester City Pubcast. Hello everyone, welcome to a slightly perturbed Foss Arms. We're expecting to be telling you about Leicester City's latest victory against West Ham, but it hasn't gone to plan at the London Stadium. And here to pick the bones out of this with me, Tim, tonight are Killer, good evening.
Good evening, Tim.
And Norm, good evening.
Good evening.
So we've got a good show ahead. We're going to look at what's gone wrong at West Ham and also what's gone on in Leicester with some suggestions of a party involving some of the players before that game. We're going to remind ourselves that life isn't that bad with a look back at some truly horrendous 11s. Going to look back at some of our favourite kits, and then the show will finish for sure on an upbeat tone as we look towards Leicester City's first semi-final since the 80s. But Killer, there's only one place to start, that rank disappointment and the fact that West Ham have now done the double over us.
Done the double over us. I feel pretty numb, actually. I feel pretty shell-shocked about it. You couldn't obviously help but be impressed with the way that Leicester did come back into it. And let's be honest, Wesley Fofana had a really good chance at the end to nick a point. And the whole tone of this show, just on the strength of where that header went, would have been totally different. But ultimately, very, very disappointing afternoon. Disappointing to go 3-0 down. And when they scored the fourth, which was obviously subsequently ruled out for VAR, I just thought to myself, just get me out of here. I just want this game finished now. It could end up being a really damaging scoreline. But credit to Leicester, and I've got to say as well, credit to Mark Albrighton. Not often do I give a sub man of the match. He got my man of the match. I thought he came on with a enthusiasm and a vigour that I just think was lacking across the pitch. It was a very subdued performance. There were some truly horrific performances along the way. I've got to say, I thought Daniel Amati, you really got to question whether or not long term he can feature in this Leicester City team. You know what's going to go on with him. I don't know. He doesn't look good enough. Nacho, aside from the 2 goals, I thought had a dreadful game, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Yeah. But he scored 2 goals. One of them was, well, both of them were smart finishes, but the first one was obviously a very good. Jamie Vardy just looks totally out of sorts. I felt desperately sorry for Dennis Pratt. We'll obviously talk about what's happened with the Leicester COVID-3 shortly. Felt desperately sorry for Dennis Pratt because he was thrown in. And I don't know if you saw his face when he got substituted. He literally looked absolutely shattered, as indeed he would be, and he shouldn't have been thrown in to the bear pit like that. He should have been on the bench. He should have been part of a good, strong bench that we had today. James Maddison should have started. Perez should have been on the bench along with Dennis Pratt, and you would have looked at the bench and said, good, we've got some options there. Unfortunately, we've been badly let down by those 3 players, and I feel really sore about that. I find it incredulous, and obviously we will talk about it in a few minutes. I do find it absolutely incredulous that anybody in their right mind approaching a huge Premier League game could go and do what they've done. But anyway, that's for another day. Ultimately, it was just a really disappointing performance. We salvaged some pride, and hopefully we can hang on to that for next week, because obviously we're just going to need it. The game next week, unfortunately, starting to feel a little bit like the Aston Villa Carabao Cup tie, where you think, we're bound to go through, aren't we? It's starting to feel a little bit like that. We're rocking up to it in not great shape, but it is what it is. Hopefully, Brendan can rally the troops. Hopefully, he can turn around and go, look, you've murdered them for the last 25 minutes. And from a form point of view, we can try and at least retain something. But ultimately, Tim, they've done us over 2 games. They've scored 6 goals. And on a game really where we didn't want to lose, we have. And that Champions League place now is looking precarious.
I don't know about you, Norm. The first half hour of the game, I was very comfortable. I thought we were comfortably the better side. You know, we were fortunate that Antonio and Rice, who are probably their two best players, missing. I looked through their side and I thought, yeah, this game's going to plan. I don't think any of their players get in our team. It's just going to take time, but soon enough we're going to pick them off as we normally do. And then the goals started flooding in, and Lingard is really, unfortunately from our point of view, doing everything on the pitch that Maddison is not able to do on the pitch through his injury and other events, and really taking his chance fantastically. Fair play to him. But I can't help feeling we've got beaten by a side that are nowhere near as good as us.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't think either team were looking brilliant. I think they were cancelling each other out in most of the first half. But with our defensive lapses and a couple of Lingard's first goal was a nice strike. The angle it came in on does kind of exonerate Casper a little, but my initial thought was that he kind of watched it go in. But to be fair, I'm probably being a little bit harsh on that. But they only had a couple of chances. They just scored 2 shots on target in the first half, 2 goals, and that's kind of the way the game went. Football puzzles me enormously because, like Killer alluded to, the last 25 minutes, we looked really good again, and I don't understand how a team can be so bang average for a period of time. I know they changed the shape, etc. But then suddenly, like 3-0 down, let's start playing some really good football. And it was almost like a weight was off their shoulders, and it was like, yeah, that's just nothing to lose, nice and relaxed. And yeah, I mean, I honestly thought we were going to nick something from the game. I thought, my goodness, we are actually going to do this. To the point, I was already preparing myself to be annoyed that we hadn't gone on and won the game. But sadly, it didn't quite come to that. But I think with the last 20 minutes, we've got to look at that and think, you know what, lads, if you play like that for the rest of the season, we should be okay. But it is getting all a little bit too close now. And who thought I'd be saying, oh, goodness me, I hope Man U beat Spurs this afternoon. But, I that's how I'm thinking now. But disappointing, very disappointing.
So let's come on to this party then, because we'll throw the word allegedly in there because we're not quite sure what's happened, but it's being widely reported in the media that a number of Leicester players, most worryingly including Maddison, have attended some sort of house party, breaking the COVID rules. Rodgers, in my opinion, quite rightly, if that is the case, has excluded them from the squad. And I mean, are we going to pin this result on that, Killer? I think Maddison would have made a big difference today, wouldn't he?
He would have done. Tim, what they've done is absolutely horrendous on all levels. This is professional football. It's not pub football. This is professional football. And these guys earn an absolute fortune. I mean, James Maddison is on £100,000 a week. I mean, that pays for 3 NHS nurses minimum. You've got to put that into perspective. And I just don't know what's going through their minds. I think we can say with some certainty that those 3 have gone to some sort of party, and therefore, as a consequence of that, they have broken not only the government law with regards to COVID, but obviously the more stricter measures that the club puts in place because of obviously the fact that the Premier League has been allowed to carry on. And it's absolutely unforgivable. What on earth are they thinking of when they're all texting each other saying, party round so-and-so's, and they're all going, yeah. At what point does somebody turn around, one of them go, we shouldn't be doing this, boys. We really, really, really shouldn't be doing this. And, we're all sick of lockdown. I know it's easing tomorrow, but everybody, the nation, is absolutely sick of lockdown. Point number 1. Point number 2 is obviously Premier League football has got a lot of bad press right at the beginning of lockdown because staff were going on furlough at football clubs, but they were still obviously getting full pay and stuff. The media have now just got a brilliant story, which they are going to run. Make no mistake about it. I noticed the Sun have already put something up on their page. And unfortunately, it's pretty much the first time it's happened under the Brendan Rodgers reign. We don't need Leicester City in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. We just don't need it. We're a football club which is nationally and internationally respected and liked. And now we're going to get, especially James Maddison, not quite so much the other two, but James Maddison as a highbrow footballer and one of these Marmite footballers as well. You know, he sits up in the stand wearing this handy-pandy Gucci outfit that cost him 10,000 quid. He's not everyone's cup of tea by any means, and then he goes and does something stupid like that. I think it's unforgivable. And I'm going to be very interested to see what Maddison, who runs his mouth after a football match, by the way, he's very, very quick to get in front of the camera and let everybody know how brilliant he is. And, I'd just be really interested to see what he's got to say. What's his defence here? Because quite frankly, sorry's not going to cut it for me. Sorry's when you bump into somebody accidentally. Sorry isn't, I've actually done a premeditated act, which I knew was wrong. That doesn't cut it for me, so I'm going to be interested to see what he says.
I mean, can I just jump in here, Tim? I think the other thing that you need to consider here is that obviously if they hadn't got caught, they wouldn't have said anything. Now, this is only football. COVID is much more serious than that. But if they had contracted COVID at this party and they hadn't got caught, this would have gone right through the football club potentially, which, you know, they're fit men and women in the canteen, etc. There's a lot, puts a lot of people at risk. But not only that, it would decimate our squad, which would also have a knock-on effect with regards to the footballing side, which may mean that we were more players out for important games that meant it could cost the football club millions of pounds. I mean, I'm very careful. I don't want to sort of make it just about football. We know COVID's bigger than that, but they haven't thought about the other effects of their selfish actions, and it's an insult to the fans. I find it quite insulting that these players would consider doing something like that, particularly at this part of the season. At any time, it's bad enough, but you know, it's just such a vital time, and to think they're not going to get caught. I mean, goodness me. You can't hide when you're in the public spotlight. It's just I'm actually kind of lost for words. I'm very, very disappointed.
Yeah, do you know what, Norm? And I'm sure this is the same for all three of us. I can sit here with my hand on my heart and say I've broke no COVID laws. No rules or anything. I haven't gone around anybody's house. There's been no sneaky sort of come round my house, bring a few cans. There's been nothing. I've played it with a straight bat. And I'm not a public figure. And I'm not on £100,000 a week. And I don't play for a football team of 250,000 people that support them worldwide. You're quite right, Norm. It is absolutely unthinkable and it's disgraceful.
I think also, you know, if I come at it even purely from a selfish point of view, because unfortunately the spotlight's going to fall on Maddison because he's the best player that's been banned, and he's a really important player to us. And I do feel today that he could have made a big difference against West Ham. But even if you take it from a purely selfish point of view, we said last week he's probably now on the fringes of the England squad. So now Southgate will now have this in mind as well. So he's got a behavioural black mark against him. And as well as that, the guy that's in the last 6 weeks pushing him to those fringes and probably out of the England squad is in his direct opposition today. Jesse Lingard pops up and scores 2 goals. Yeah. I mean, what is he doing with his career? I mean, forget the Leicester City connotations, forget the COVID connotations. If he's going to look at it purely selfishly, even that doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
I just don't know what he was thinking of. Like I say, he'll run his mouth after a football match. And look, I'm getting on his back. And I'm getting on his back because he's a prized Leicester City talent. We know that. What he's done has irritated the Leicester City football community. It's indefensible. And I'm going to get on his back. He runs his mouth after the football match. He's a guy that when he scores, likes nothing more than pointing to the name on his shirt. I hate that, by the way. Points to the name at the shirt. Look at me. I'm James Maddison. I'm disappointed I didn't get picked for the England squad. I think I'm worthy of a place. And then he goes and does this. Ridiculous.
Let's have a look at the wider connotations of the defeat. So, you know, maybe things aren't quite so bad. We know we've got the FA Cup semi coming up. So our fixtures after that, I think, and I know the media focusing on our last 3 games. Fair enough. We said a couple of weeks ago we need 12 more points. Now, our next 4 league games should be dead easy games. We got West Brom, who should be easy to beat, just like Chelsea beat them last week, didn't they? We got Palace, who should be dead easy to beat, just like Everton beat them last week, didn't they? We've then got Southampton in the league, who we will beat next week, won't we? And then we've got Newcastle at home in the league, who should be easy to beat, just like Spurs did, didn't they? But in principle, before we get into those last 3 games of the season, I know this is going to sound daft, I don't think today's display was too disastrous. We will have Maddison back. Rodgers has already said that. We might even have Barnes back. And whilst other teams, I noticed West Ham, 2 players went down today, Cresswell and Noble, they are direct opposition for us. We're starting to get our injuries back. You could not ask for 4 better fixtures than West Brom, Palace, Southampton and Newcastle. You know, arguably 3 of them have got nothing to play for if you throw West Brom into that.
Yeah.
So Norm, I still am reasonably optimistic. I'm sure we won't win all 4, but I'm sure we won't lose the last 3 either.
Yeah, look, you've got to be optimistic, but I think because of what happened last year, it just eats away at you at the back of your mind that, you know, it does mean that the next game the next league game really is a must win. After we could be stretching away again after those games, so I don't think we need to panic. But I do worry a little bit about the mentality of this team, whether they've really got it in them to just grind out the results, because win the next couple of games and we'll be sitting pretty again. Look, we lost to Man City last week. It's the first time this season we've lost 2 games on the trot. There's no need for us to panic, but we do need to be concerned, and the players do need to look at themselves and, you know, sit amongst themselves and think, right, we've got to stick together and let's really, really go for it. Let's be calm, sensible, but dedicated to getting this club into the Champions League, which for the whole of the season we've deserved to be there. So let's not let it slip right at the end.
And the reason I do not see any parallels with last season. I know there's some, you know, suggestion, Leicester going to do a Devon Lock again. I just don't see the parallels at all. I think this season it's very clear what the issue is. We've played the entire season with at least 14 first team members missing, and we've done that again today. Soyuncu, Maddison, Barnes, and Justin. They would have all been in the team today. Absolutely no question. And I don't see that. It doesn't feel like a choking sort of experience at all. What's happening this time? I think we've just been unbelievably unlucky with injuries, and it's going to be a heck of an achievement as and when we do make it. And I still think we will at the moment.
Yeah.
So let's be optimistic. Now, Killer and Norm have been putting together their worst ever 11s that have turned out for this magnificent football club, and we're turning this into a big competition. So Killer's going to first of all present his worst 11 that he could dream up. We're going to contrast it with Norm's worst 11 and then work out what the score in a match between those 2 would have been.
Tim, can I just...
Killer, over to you.
Sorry, Killer, to interrupt, but Tim, it was actually players that have played for us in the Premier League. So,
sorry, I should have made that clear. Spot on. Yeah, Premier League rubbish 11s.
Yeah.
Sorry, we could have ducked down into League One. Real miserable point.
Well, it probably would have ended up being an 11 that most people hadn't or couldn't really remember. But looking at my 11, I'm just now scratching my head, wondering how on earth any of them played in the Premier League. But anyway, we'll go through it. It really is a ragtag bunch of players. Now, I suppose when I was putting this together, what I sort of thought to myself as much as anything else is those players that I watch play in the Premier League that sort of sent me mad. You know, those ones where you'd scream at. One of them, he sent me so mad. I remember the guy that used to sit in front of me and my mate who used to go down there at Christmas on the Boxing Day fixture, offered me a mince pie, and when I gave him mince pie, he went, any chance of getting off his back for a bit? which was hilarious. Let me go through the team. The goalkeeper actually was pretty tricky because the goalkeepers have been pretty good. But yeah. I'm going to go for Peggy Arfaxad because I just don't really remember him being much good. And I do remember the Martin O'Neill story. Apparently, he was watching Peggy train, And he was just getting beaten by shots left, right, and centre. And apparently O'Neill screamed to Arfaxad, "Are you going to save any of these?" And Arfaxad screamed back, "I don't have to. That's what I've got the net for."
But did he not go to Liverpool?
He went to Liverpool and apparently earned a decent wage as well. They stuck him on a very good reserve. Well, I suppose it's difficult getting reserve goalkeepers, isn't it, when you've got a good goalkeeper? I can't remember who theirs was. Presumably it would have been Pepper Reina, wouldn't it? You would imagine. Or maybe, no, it would have been before that. Anyway, he went there very much on the basis of you're only going to play in the League Cup. But by the way, here's 10 grand a week. And I think he was very happy to get it. But anyway, Peggy Arfax said, fullback Richard Smith. And it's absolutely unthinkable that he ever played in the Premier League. I'm sorry, Richard, because I know you're a local lad, and you actually deliver me the odd skip when I need it as well. But I remember him playing. It's true, by the way. He actually runs a skip company.
Is he personally delivering?
Yeah. It's a one-man band, mate. So when he turned up, and I went, "You're Richard Smith, aren't you?" And he went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Look what I'm doing now, running a skip icon." I said, "So what? Good honest work." I said, "Anyway, you weren't getting 20 grand a week like they were doing now." Anyway, he played in the Premier League. And I remember watching him play against, do you remember John Solarco?
Yeah.
That tricky little Coventry winger.
Palace.
Palace, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember Richard Smith playing against him. And it was absolutely men against boys. Have you ever been in the back garden having a kick around with a little 2-year-old, and all you do is you just keep the ball? That's all. That was what Solarco was doing to Richard Smith. And then I remember Solarco indiscriminately got sent off. And I remember looking at Richard Smith, and he just puffed his cheeks out as if to go, "What am I doing here?" just horrible. Anyway, Richard Smith, fullback. Couple of absolutely corking centre-backs that we got in on loan. Jakob Larsson. Do you remember him? Rubbish.
I don't remember him.
Nikos Dabizas.
Yeah, he wasn't very good.
Awful. And a guy that's actually tended to play for midfield for Leicester, but could play fullback, who I just thought was shocking, Lee Marshall. Absolute rubbish. Midfield 4. Which is, I mean, this is just beautiful. I've got to have Matt Jones. The mince pie story was about Matt Jones. He drove me mad, by the way. He literally drove me mad. I'd had years of watching Neil Lennon, who was brilliant, and then he was replaced with this clown. Absolute rubbish. Junior Lewis, who is just somebody that you just shake your head and go, why? It's like a poor Colton Palmer, wasn't he? I've then got to have my captain, Dennis Wise, because I think seldom have I ever been so disappointed with a footballer. Got quite excited when he turned up, didn't we? You know, ex-Chelsea.
I remember absolutely screaming some abuse at him from the cop because he just didn't try for us, did he?
Didn't try. He used to take all the free kicks and corners. I mean, literally, we moan about some of Maddison's corners. I mean, he makes him look like Andy Hinchcliffe. Really, I mean, it just couldn't get the ball off the ground. And then one footballer who you might not remember. He is absolutely, without question, the worst footballer I've ever seen play at this level. And Mickey Adams got him in. Paul Brooker. He played about 6 games that season. He was rubbish. He was absolutely rubbish to the point where when I included him, and I thoroughly enjoyed including him as well, I thought to myself, what happened to him? And I think it's fair to say he got found out at Premier League level because afterwards he went to Reading, where he wasn't there very long before he got moved on to Brentford. And Brentford, I think at the time, might have been even 3rd or 4th tier. He didn't stay there. I think he was there for a couple of seasons, and then went to Chertsey Town. Dorking Wanderers. I've never even heard of Dorking Wanderers.
He did avoid Obi Town.
He didn't join Norman Lee at Obi Town, having to pay subs. Anyway, Paul Brooker, and then up front, Graham Fenton, who I know Martin O'Neill has described as the worst professional footballer he's ever worked with. And he said it. He said it openly as well when we were at this sort of like after dinner thing. He was still at the club, and he said, "I don't want to sell Graham Fenton. It's worth the £1 million we paid for him to watch his career rot in the reserves." And then the other striker, and I do feel a bit sorry for him because I think he was probably a decent lad, but he was just absolutely hopeless. Was Big Trev Benjamin. I can't even say his name without laughing. You know, people say, such Junior Lewis, a poor man's Colton Palmer. I remember a mate of mine said, Trevor Benjamin, a poor man's Trevor Benjamin. Anyway, that's my 11. Norm, see what do your worst.
Well, Norm, you're up against it.
Absolutely, and I've got a few, or two or three the same, and a lot of the names you mentioned there were very, very close to getting in my worst 11. Particularly, Richard Smith and Dabazas were very, very, very close, but they didn't quite make it. So goalies were tough because we have been blessed with those, and I've gone for Simon Royce. I don't know. I mean, bless him. Maybe it's because he was like reserved to Tim Flowers that when he came on, it never quite felt the same. But I remember seeing him in the early 2000s, and he was, never filled anyone with a huge amount of confidence. Let's put it like that. Fullbacks both have Forest links, which makes them even worse in my mind. I've got John Curtis. Don't even know whether you even remember him, but he was absolutely...
He was on my list, mate. Yeah,
he was
rubbish.
Completely pointless. And also Alan Rogers, who had moments where I felt he probably wasn't quite as bad as he was, but invariably was just another shocking player from the early 2000s, around the Peter kind of failure era, really. Don't really know what else to say about him apart from the fact he was rubbish. And imagine those two, the bread either side of Brian Carey and Nicky Mohan.
No, that's not the paciest central pairing.
I mean, Brian Carey. I mean, when he played for us in the Championship or the then First Division, he wasn't good enough. He came from Man United. I mean, goodness me, he was appalling. And
my mate, Norm, just quickly, my mate once said when we were watching him play, he said when there's a high ball goes up, they don't need anybody flicking it on for them because Carey does it for them. He literally can't head it forward.
No,
he was like always heading it backwards.
No, he was scared of the ball. It was like he was scared of it. It was like he'd almost go for it, then duck, which is why it would always flick backwards. Nicky Mohan was signed to shore up our defence in the 94-95 season, apparently. I mean, he certainly didn't succeed in that. So that's my goalkeeper and my back four. I've gone for a 4-4-2. You mentioned Lee Marshall and Junior Lewis. Lee Marshall, absolutely killer, terrible. Junior Lewis, what I like about Junior Lewis is this. In a 4-4-2 poll, he was voted Leicester City's worst ever player. But you think that's amusing. In the same poll, he was also voted Stevenage's worst ever player. Now,
as voted by Junior Lewis's family.
So
that's quite some achievement.
That's right. But, I mean, to be like, whether it would be the best or the worst, to be that for any team, for one team is, well, I mean, an achievement. To be in the same poll for two different teams, I mean, how he stole a living, didn't he? My wingers, I've actually gone for recent players for us. I've gone for Rashid Ghazal and Chenzig Under. Now, it's hard for me to say Under because I thought he was really good when he first started, but he's just proven himself to not have the right attitude, in my opinion. I know he's injured at the moment, but not got the right attitude and hasn't really done anything to demonstrate anything other than being a disappointment, and he won't be at the club next year. And Gazelle, he's good. Look, it's always going to be difficult when we've had Mahrez, but I think we're all hoping one day we'll find a winger that can offer something other than rubbish. But Gazelle is not that player, aside from a decent strike against Fleetwood Town, I think, a few years ago. But anyway, yeah, so they're my wingers. Up front, I also have Trevor Benjamin. No need to say any more on him. Kelly, you've already covered him very nicely. And obviously, AD Akinbaye. I don't think any disappointing 11 would be the same without him. Without him getting in the right positions, but then missing. In that game against Liverpool, I mean, I actually watched the video a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, I'd actually forgotten how bad it was. But yeah, I mean, bless him, a nice bloke, and such a shame he didn't quite have the effect that we thought he would have. But yeah, so there you go. There's my 11 to challenge Killer's 11, Tim.
It would be an error-ridden football match, wouldn't it? With some poor set pieces and some flashing misses.
Well, yeah, this is the tricky. I've just been thinking as you talk. Well done, by the way. There's some fantastic research then, and the first thing that jumps out here in this game is that the history of the club dates back over 100 years, and yet two of you have pulled out the two people have pulled out the same two players, Junior Lewis and Lee Marshall. of all the players that have represented the club over that time, they both feature on your list. Well, I love that. The other thing that just before I come on to how this match might play out, it's, with the exception of Under and Gazelle, it's quite encouraging that. I think I'm having a look down the names that you've mentioned. I think the next most recent player to have played would be Matt Jones, would he? And that was quite a long time ago. So that does show how the club have progressed with those two obvious exceptions. Right. In terms of a match, right. So Killer, interesting that you say that. So this two appalling teams facing up against each other. So suppose the question becomes, are there that many mistakes that the defenders are going to make and offer up chance after chance after chance, but then the strikers are so bad, they're obviously not going to be able to take any of these chances? And I do remember with 2 points on AD Akinbaye, one signed for £5 million. Remember that? £5 million he signed for. And I remember Trevor Francis describing him as the best defensive striker out there. Well, I'm sure there's a compliment in there somewhere. That's an absolutely appalling front line, as is Graham Fenton and Trevor Benjamin. So the conclusion that I've come to is, despite the dreadful lack of talent on display in both of your back fours, I can't see anyone on either 11 to put the ball in the back of the net. So I'm actually going to call it a 0-0 draw.
Fair enough. And you know what, mate? You'd probably be about right, wouldn't you?
Well, it's either 5-5 or 0-0, isn't it? I couldn't work out quite which way to go.
It would be the only game ever played where, at the moment, obviously fans aren't even allowed into the grounds, where by the end of the game, there would be fewer people left in the grounds than there are at the moment.
Even the coaching staff have gone.
Even the ball boys have thought, there's no point. It's just no point. Go and get it yourself.
Well, the ball boys are up in like row double N, aren't they? Just getting really, really sick of it.
Now, look, we were going to go on and talk about our favourite kits today, but time is getting the better of us, largely due to the angst about this party that's happened. So cheers, Madders, for that one as well. We'll kick that one into next week. Let's move things onto a bit of an up note and have a look at our big game coming up next week. I'm going to ask you a quick question and then ask Norm to talk about Saints. So, Killer, one word or 2 word answer. Top 4 or FA Cup?
Top 4.
No,
FA Cup.
Oh,
it wasn't a difficult question.
No, I think it was. I think it was in terms of the ramifications. The reason I'm going to say FA Cup is we've been in the Champions League. If we hadn't have been in the Champions League, I would have said Champions League. FA Cup.
I'm going to say FA Cup.
No.
I'm going to say FA Cup just because we've never won it, but it's very close because to be in the Champions League would mean so much for this club and keeping players moving forward, etc. So it's how it would affect the club. I've got to go for the FA Cup.
And for me, hands down, FA Cup, no question. So let's put West Ham into the back of our minds and put the league into the back of our minds for 10 days or so. Then, Norm, and tell us what you think about Saints.
Well, Saints they're just one of those teams this season that you just don't quite know what you're going to get, do you? I think they are a threat. Danny Ings is a player that I would love to have at our football club. Vestergaard also has been very good defensively. So I think it's going to, depending on what Southampton side turns up, will depend very much on how the game goes for us. But look, we know we are better than them. And on our day, there's no doubt this should be a game that sees us through to our first FA Cup FA Cup final since 1969. I am pretty confident we will get there, but it is. I hope the players realise what an enormous game this is for us fans as well. You know, it's been so long since we've been in this position, and we almost had the chance when we lost to Wickham in the to get to the semi-final, and it is. 1982 is such a very, very long time ago. You know, it's for younger fans now, where the FA Cup has lost a little bit of its interest. I understand why they'd probably go for things like the Champions League, but for us, it is so important. And I am desperate that next Sunday we put in a performance and play the best team that we possibly can do and really, really go for it. It's just a massive pity that it's going to be behind. Well, there's going to be 4,000 local people there who probably don't even like football. But that's the real disappointment, that the first semi-final in so long is not going to be something that we are able to attend. But I think we've got enough for the game. Just be confident, and I'm sure we'll be okay.
Well put. But, Killer, is there a danger? I do think, reflecting on our comments over the last couple of weeks about this game, I think we're all a little bit cocky, quietly confident we're going to win this. I feel like that. I feel just as Norm's said. And, you know, Saints have got a better striker than we saw on display today. We would have all expected to beat West Ham. This isn't going to be completely straightforward, is it? They've got nothing to play for. They can really give it their all in this game. Yeah,
as Norm said, they're a difficult team to predict. I watched them play a couple of weeks ago when they played Burnley. They were 2-0 down at half time. They were playing horrifically. Could have been 3 or 4, and then second half they pulled it back. They've got good players. They've got players that on their day can trouble anybody. And one thing for certain is, if they play well, they will trouble us. If we play like we did today and start like we did today, and they come out the traps quickly, then I'm afraid we're going to go home empty-handed. So I totally echo what Norm says. Look, I don't think we are getting blasé about it, and I don't think we're getting cocky about it. What we're saying is the stats will tell you that Leicester City are third in the Premier League, and they're way down below us. We go into the game as favourites. So therefore, I think that's where our little bit of confidence and swagger come from. Make no mistake about it. I think most Leicester City fans next week it will be a nervous approach to the game. I know I'm going to be nervous. I'm nervous thinking about it now because of the fact that within my lifetime there has never been a better opportunity to get to a cup final. In '82, we were actually in the second tier. We played a very good Spurs team. We went in there as underdogs. We don't this time. We got the draw that we wanted. This is our chance. We're not getting any younger. Who knows? I don't know how many more FA Cup final chances we're going to have. That makes me nervous in itself.
Well, on that note, let's come on to the predictor then. Trump Wells IPA supporting us through thin today as well as thick as usual. So, right result, a point. Precise score, 3. 3 straightforward predictions last week. We all thought we'd beat West Ham, so nothing going on at all. 12 points for Killer, 19 for me, 22 for Norm, and Norm to kick us off with a prediction in the FA Cup semi-final against Southampton.
My prediction in the FA Cup semi-final versus Southampton is that we will win, and we will win 3-1. And that isn't being cocky. I'm not overconfident. It's going to be tough, but there's nothing wrong with being confident. We're better. So 3-1 Leicester.
3-1 Leicester.
I think
Killer.
there's going to be goals. I've got to go with Leicester.
I should add, Killer. I should add. Sorry, and I should have mentioned after 90 minutes again.
Okay.
For this.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go after 90 minutes 2-2.
Oh, you're going to... Oh, goodness. I'm going to say 2-1 Leicester. I do think we're better than them. I sincerely hope I'm right on that one. If you want to get in touch with us, folks, it's leicestercitypubcast@gmail.com. Thank you, Killer. Thank you, Norm. We'll see you next week. But in the interim, come on, City. This has been so long. Please give us this next week. See you then. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the Leicester City Pubcast, please subscribe and tell everyone about it. If you hated the Leicester City Pubcast, please keep it to yourselves. See you next week.